Alright, so today we went over two kinds of factoring to finish up our factoring, and both were trinomials. The first one was perfect trinomials because that particular type always is done from multiplying two identical parentheses together, with square the first, square the last, double the middle. So to factor it back, you've got to figure out what did somebody square to get 25x squared. So just take the square root of it, and that's 5x. Then do the same thing for the 49. What did they square to get 49? 7. Now the sign in here always comes from the middle, so it's going to be plus. But you can't stop there. You need to go back and think about doubling the middle, because we know if we square those two, I'll go back to the original problem. But the middle is 2 times the first times the last. So 7 times 5 is 35, and doubled is 70x, and that matches the middle, so we know that answer is right. So in question 18, let's try that also. First, we're going to square root the first, and that's 5x. We're going to square root the last, and then 121 square root is 11. We're going to take the sign from the middle and say it's this quantity squared. So if I square the first, I get 25x squared. If I square the last, I get 121. But now I've got to do 2 times the first times the last to see if it makes this negative 198. Well, 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 times 11 is 111. No, excuse me, 110. So that means that I did not get what I wanted. So this is not the correct answer. This is not factorable by perfect. Now, it might factor by some other method, but it's not factorable by perfect. So now let's look at our next one. So we got to square root both ends, and that gives us 2x and 3. And if we put the sign from the middle is negative, and if we get 2 times 2x times negative 3, that's definitely not going to be negative 6 because it's already negative 6 before I double it. That's negative 12x. So this is not factorable by perfect. So that means I'd have to try another method once we learned it. But I try it first to see if it works. So now we're going to square root the first and get 8x. We're going to square root the last. We're going to get 9. We're going to put the sign from the middle, and then we're going to check the middle term. 2 times 8x times negative 9. Well, 8 and 9 multiply to be 72, and if you double 72, you get negative 144x. So that does match. So now I want you to stop the video and try the last two questions and see if they work for you. And don't forget, you have to look for greatest common factors before you sometimes can work the question. So let's see if you got it right. So 11x is the square root of 121, and the square root of this is 7, and plus from the middle, quantity squared, and 2 times 11 times 7 would make 77, and double that's 154, so that one works. Over here, you got to take out the GCF, because it looks like it's divisible by 2, and I got 3 x's I can take out. So 2x to the third, take that out of each one. That'll leave me 49x squared. Divide 2 in here, and you get 84x to the first, because you're going to take 3 x's off. And then 2 into this is 36. Now those numbers look perfectly square rootable, so it's possible it might work with this question. We'll see. So if I square root the first, I get 7x. If I square root the last, I get 6. The plus in the middle, and if this works, I have to bring down my GCF back. Otherwise, I'll go back and say the answer is what I've had above it. So 2 times 7x times 6, 7 times 6 is 42. 42 and 42 add up to 84. So doubling it would be 84. So now that I know it works to make the middle, this is the answer, because I had to do GCF first and then do perfect. So sometimes you have to do more work than just perfect. So we've got the 5-step method left to do if it's not perfect. And the 5-step method does how can you turn this problem into grouping, because grouping's a really easy way to do questions. So first it says you multiply the coefficient of x squared, which is an A, is the letter they stand for the number in front of x squared, times the constant on the end. That gives you an opportunity to make a list of factors to try. Then you've got to come in and figure out which pattern of these signs match it. So let's try one. Well, hold on. Let me work on my document. I'll come back here in a minute. Let me pause. All right, so in the 5-step method, you take the first number times the last number. So since there's a 1 in front of that, that makes that 60. So factors of 60 are 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, and 6 and 10. Then you go and look at this chart. The chart says when there's a negative in the middle and a positive on the end, they're both negative. So we make all these numbers negative. The whole point of this process is to see which one adds up to negative 19 in the middle. And as you can see, this one adds up to negative 19. They're both negative, and they add up to negative 19. So we're going to insert, that's what our next step says. Let's go back and read it. Replace the two terms from the list for the linear term in the middle. So we have to put the variables on these two numbers that was on the variable in the middle. So why they got an X. And then you turn it into, split the problem and finish it. Take an X out. Take a negative 15 out. And that leaves me with X minus 4 and X minus 15 when we do the grouping method that we learned on Friday. So let's try it again. 8 times negative 9 is negative 72. Now forget it's negative for a minute. Let's just list positive factors. Whoop. 72. 2 and 36. 3 and 24. 4 and 18. 6 and 12 and 8 and 9. Now look at the patterns. In the problem, it's plus negative. And we'll go back and look at our chart. Plus and then negative tells us that the larger one has to be positive and the smaller one is negative, so when it'll add up to a positive in the middle. So the smaller one needs to be negative, the larger one needs to be positive, so it'll add up to 6y. So that's going to be this one. That adds up to 6y. If we put the y's on it. Now I'm putting the 6y here for a reason, not because it was first in my list, but because it's negative. And if you have a choice on where to put your negative, you want the negative in the second hole, not the third one. Now we're going to split it. I can take out a 2y, and I'll have 4y minus 3 left. On the other one, I can take out a 3 and have 4y minus 3. So my 4y's minus 3 match, leaving me with 2y plus 3. Okay, I'm going to pause the video, and I want you to make the list for question number 25 and see if you can find something that multiplies to be 30 and adds up to 13. All right, let's see what you did with that list. So I've got 30, 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. They're all positive because the problem's all positive, so there's how I could even get a negative, and 3 and 10 make it work. So a squared plus 3a plus 10a plus 30. Split the problem. You can take an a out. That leaves you with a plus 3. 10 and 30, you can take a 10 out and leave you with a plus 3. So the final answer to this question is a plus 3 in one of the parentheses and a plus 10 in the other one. And I don't care which parentheses you write first. That's totally up to you. So on this question, got a little problem. Somebody didn't put the problem in order. The squared term should be first. The linear term should be second. The one without a letter should always be last with a constant. But by doing that, it made the first one negative. So we're going to take a negative out and change everybody to the opposite. Now we'll factor it, but that negative will come back in and be part of the answer when we get done with the 5-step method. So 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. You can have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6 are your only choices to get negative 18. Now my problem, now that I've changed it, is plus negative. But when I, well, hold on. But when I go over here, plus negative is, the positive is the larger, and the negative is on the smaller. So I put the negative on the smaller, and I realize this one adds up to be the right value. So we're going to say 2x squared minus 3x plus 6x minus 9. And again, I like that order because I want the one that's in the second hole to be negative if I have a choice. So I can take an x out and get 2x minus 3. And I can take a 3 out and get 2x minus 3. So 2x minus 3 is part of my answer, and x plus 3 is my other part of my answer, and then I bring this negative down that I took out for the GCF. Always try to remember to do that, to put your GCF back on your answer at the end. Alright, so let's look at a few more examples. So I had that list of 30 a minute ago. Let's go back and look at it for 16. See if we can find any of them add up to 16. So I don't have to remake my list. So this will add up to 31, this will add up to 17, 13, 11. None of them add up to 16. So if you can't get anything to add up to be it, it's not factorable. And that happens sometimes. Alright, 1 times 40 is 40. And it'll be negative, but we'll worry about that in a minute. Let's get the positive ones first. So there's all the possibilities. Now let's go look up what negative negative on our chart means. Negative negative means the larger one is negative and the smaller one is positive. And here's why. We want it to multiply to be a negative, but add up to negative 6. And if I put the negative on the larger, it'll add up to negative 6 because you're supposed to subtract and take the sign of the larger. So now I'm going to put that negative 10 in the second hole instead of the 4, which is what probably a lot of you thought I was going to do. And that's because I like my negative to be there so that I don't have to take a negative out on the third term. So if I take a k out, I got k minus 10. If I take a 4 out, I got k minus 10. So k minus 10 is one of the factors. That's pretty obvious. But k plus 4 is the other one. Over here, 12 times 1 is 12. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 4 and, well, I should have said 3 and 4. So that means that I got this one, it's all positive, so it has to be those two numbers. I don't need any negatives. So I'm going to put 2k and 6k in here and split the problem. So now I'm going to take a 2k out, and that's going to give me 6k plus 1. And then I'm going to take a 1 out because there's nothing over there I can take out, and the GCF is always 1 if you can't take anything out. It has to be 1 because 1 divides into everything. And then you take out your 6k plus 1, and that leaves you with 2k plus 1 to work out for your GCF in front of each one. So last but not least, we have this one. So 10 times 3 is 30 again. Well, I wish I had that list again. Let me go back and find it. So 5 and 6 add up to 11, but they don't add up to negative 11. But according to our rules, if it's negative positive, they're all negative. So if 5 and 6 were both negative, it'd make negative 11. So there we go. We got to use that list again. So 10x squared minus 5xy minus 6xy plus 3y squared is our problem. And again, the reason I have xy on both of them in the middle is because that's what the middle term had on it. Take out a 5x and you'll have 2x minus y. Take out a negative 3 and a y and you'll have 2x minus y. So I got 2x minus y and 5x minus 3y. And again, if you don't know how I'm getting this so quickly, for example, you could write negative 3y under each one of these, and that would help you to divide out and get that parentheses fairly quickly, because that's what you're wanting to take out. A little easier to see sometimes if you write that division under there. So now you'll be able to go out to Canvas. There is a worksheet for 0.1 out there in Unit 0, and you'll be able to do the assignment and bring it in tomorrow. Now, we have not started that assignment, so you will need to do the entire assignment on 0.1.